This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work with another Wolff Responds. This time I'm responding to the American Rescue Plan that was just passed by Congress and signed by President Biden. I want to make a simple argument to you, and that is that this plan is a woefully inadequate response to the scale, the size, the power, the importance of the crisis we face at this time. What it is traditional democratic behavior of that party. It's not the harsh policies of the Republicans. It does help middle and lower income people. It does provide some relief, for sure. But providing some relief, the traditional democratic alternative to Republicans, that won't do now. The level of our difficulties and our problems are much too big. This is the first time in America that we've had a major economic crash as big as the Great Depression happening together with perhaps the worst public health disaster, at least in a century, and again, perhaps in the history of the United States. We're having them at the same time. We've never had that before. And each one makes the other one worse. We've never had that before. The level of our difficulty is given by one statistic. We are 4% of the world's people, and we have 20% of the world's deaths by COVID. We are rich, we have a well-developed medical system, and yet we have that statistic. That's a sign of a system that isn't working, even though the resources to solve these problems are there. Nothing indicates this better than a number one failure of the American Rescue Plan, which was to raise the absurd, low, by all international standards, minimum wage. No other advanced industrial country pegs it at $7.25 an hour because that's unconscionably low. All that was proposed was to raise it to 15 by 2025, and this government caved in and didn't do it. This is not an adequate response because what it does is to leave this profound inequality in the United States, which is itself a root cause of our problems. Then there's the idea that this is somehow hearkening back to the New Deal of FDR. No, it isn't. One of the signature programs of the New Deal was to give federal jobs, 15 million of them, to unemployed people so they would have a job, have an income, be able to pay their rent and their mortgages, feel good about themselves, take care of their children. We're not doing that now, even though we have tens of millions of unemployed people. That's not going back to Franklin Roosevelt. That's pretending he never existed or that policy wasn't the great success that it was. So afraid are the Democrats that they don't even bring it up. This is not adequate to what we're talking about. And dealing with inequality, why is there not a direct assault on inequality? In previous periods of stress in this country, World Wars I and II, for example, we passed an excess profits tax, and the rationale was very simple. We cannot have some people making money off of a war while other Americans are dying and getting hurt protecting us. This is outrageous. So we had an excess profits tax. You can't make more during a war, and if you do, the government will tax it to use it to help the families who've lost somebody in a war and to help the whole society adjust to the costs and difficulties of a war. Well, we're supposed to be in a war against COVID. We're supposed to be in a country that works together. We're all in this together, some of us have been told. No, we're not. We have 600 billionaires who made hundreds of billions of dollars more during the pandemic, while 60 million people endured unemployment for one or more months during that time. I mean, this is staggering. You've got to deal with these problems in a structural way. Finally, a simple message. If all the Democrats have been able to do is to once again be a little more sensitive than Republicans to mass suffering, determined to give real relief to middle and low income people, which the bill does, that's good. I'm glad they're doing it. But if that's all they do, they will continue to allow, as they have, the growing inequality, the growing divisions that such inequality always brings to societies, the disappearance of any concentric coming together, let's put it that way. You're paving the way for another Trump. You're paving the way for the collapsing center of this society. It is a very serious time. It is unprecedented. It needs an unprecedented response that is systemic, that is structural. Relief is not enough. We're beyond that. And unfortunately, the Democratic establishment doesn't see it and doesn't respond. And to my fellow critics, don't give up. This is a bill that demands the criticism that I think you know it deserves. In the hope that we don't go backwards, we have to go much further forward. This is Richard Wolff for Democracy at Work.